Good evening, Westlake parents, community members, teachers, staff, and most importantly, my dear students. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Jamar Robinson, and I'm the proud principal of Westlake High School. Allow me to take a second to share with you the legacy of excellence that has been left behind by the class of 2020. I want everyone to understand before we get started tonight that this class, despite great trials and adversity, managed to have 100% acceptance into college or military appointments. These students represent the best of what Westlake is, and their commitment extends not just through their graduation, but into this year as they have set the example for how we will display grit and perseverance throughout our upcoming school year. I know that many of you have concerns about how we will return to school in the fall. As your principal, it is my responsibility to make sure that I provide the best possible learning environment for our students. That includes making sure that our teachers are safe. That includes making sure that they have sanitized and hygienic classrooms. That includes making sure that our level of academic rigor remains high so that our students can continue to exceed and be placed upon that wall that I showed you guys earlier. I honestly believe that together there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. And I ask that today, as I answer many of the questions that you have posed and hopefully alleviate some of the fears that you have about returning to school or selecting the fully virtual option, that we will leave here today committed to working together to find solutions that will be the best possible environment for all of our students. So, those of you that are new to Westlake, I welcome you. I'm proud to be your principal. I can't wait to meet you. To my families that have been with me throughout the last 8 years, thank you. I love you and I miss you. You guys know that when we have our meetings, we always have them in the Westlake Auditorium. And although we all can't be here today, and we're only here virtually, I want to make sure that we try to continue and have some things so it seems as if we're normal. So we're going to go into the auditorium now and start our meeting. As you guys know, our goal is Operation A. We've been an A school throughout our 30-year history, and our goal is to have that effort and excellence be recognized by the state and actually throughout the nation. So we'll achieve that by working in our focus areas, which is student achievement, people and culture, and community collaboration. Once you become a part of the Westlake family, we've established a commitment to you as a faculty and staff. We call these our collective commitments, and they are collaborative partnership, instructional ownership, and professional stewardship. These are the things that guide our day-to-day practices and allow us to be the school that we are. You can tell a thriving school by the size and the prevalence of its PTSA. If there's one thing that I've been committed to during my tenure as principal, is to advocating and supporting our wonderful PTSA. We had a great year last year for PTSA, and with the executive committee that you see presented here, I think we're going to have an even greater year as our PTSA continues to grow and thrive. So I'm asking everyone, as this slide is up, please scan and complete the survey if you have not. Familiarize yourself with our PTSA Executive Board, and let's not allow COVID-19 or the circumstances of this pandemic to stop us from being engaged and supporting our students through a vibrant and strong PTSA. So our agenda for today, we'll talk a little bit about the FCS virtual briefings, provide a back to school overview, discuss the survey question categories, answer the parent survey Q&A, which will be the majority of this meeting, discuss our school recovery team, and then I'll provide brief closing remarks. Over the last week, the district has provided a number of briefings pertaining to our return to school plan in the fall. The upcoming briefings, as you can see, will pertain to athletics, July 14th at 10 a.m., gaps and catching up, July 15th at 10 a.m., excuse me, that's 14th for the athletics, technology, July 16th at 10 a.m. Even though these sessions are happening live at the times displayed, all of the previous sessions and these sessions are saved on the school website. So if you feel that you do not have access to information or you would like more information in regards to our school reopening plan, the executive leadership for Fulton County has provided opportunities for you to become more informed by posting these meetings and having them on the county website. So I highly encourage everyone to please view the district meetings, because much of the information that I'll be sharing with you today can be found in the district meetings. It is the official source which prevents rumors or disclarity in regards to our plan. And again, it allows you to have the most up-to-date information, whereas what I'm providing today is a summary of that. As everyone should be aware of now, our current reopening plan has two components: a face-to-face component where all students and staff will report in our traditional model, and a virtual option in which students have the ability, should they choose to engage in individual remote learning full-time through Fulton Virtual. Most of the questions that have been asked pertain to the face-to-face model, so we'll start there. The face-to-face model for Westlake High School starts with school beginning on August 17th. The school day will be a typical school day, starting at 8:20 and ending at 3:30, and the school schedule will be a traditional A-day, B-day rotation. I know that there were a lot of questions in regards to would that schedule be blended? Would students be virtual on the alternating A or B day? But as we return to school, as it is currently planned, we will follow our normal schedule with an A-day, B-day rotation with no deviation from our normal routine, with the exception of social distancing practices. So what did our parents and our students say about these options? Well, we had 535 Westlake parents and students answer the survey. As you can see, these are the grade levels that represent who responded to the survey. You can see that the majority of the parents that responded to the survey have decided on the model they would prefer. And you can see the learning plan face-to-face versus full-time Fulton virtual in comparison to the number of respondents. So we received well over 1,500 questions to our survey, and we were able to catalog these questions into 4 primary categories: safety and cleanliness, academics, athletics, and virtual learning. Even though we received over 1,500 questions, the majority of those questions were duplicates. So I will either address all of the questions here through my presentation or through the information that I've provided, and the questions that were the most prevalent or repeated the most, I will share those directly and summarize the answers at the end. So let's talk about safety and cleanliness. The county has already outlined protocols that all schools must follow in regards to health and safety reopening in the fall. These protocols are extended from the information from the World Health Organization and the CDC. Masks are required for all employees. Masks are expected for students riding school buses and strongly encouraged for students while they're at school. Additional protective equipment will be used in the clinic and while serving medically fragile students. There were many questions posed in regards to making masks mandatory for students and what can be the procedures around attaining that goal. As county leaders outside of the school district and state leaders and legislators start to pass information and laws with in regards to masks, there may be changes to our current no mask required for students, but as of right now, students are strongly encouraged to wear masks. Employees are required to wear masks. And if we are all in alignment with the safety protocols and the importance of everyone wearing masks, regardless of what may be a dictate, if everyone practices safety and does what they are supposed to do in regards to caring for our particular environment, then everyone will be wearing masks and we will make sure that we are protected in that fashion. So parents, I encourage you to remain up to date on the most current information in regards to student safety and the transmission of COVID and how masks reduce the transmission of that. And if we are all in alignment with that, then whether we're wearing masks or not will not be a major consideration. Leadership will review and respond to official guidance from local, state, and federal government agencies, and we will make adjustments to policy as that information changes. Hand sanitizing stations have been installed in all of the school hallways to incorporate hand washing and sanitizing throughout the day. Paper towel dispensers have been installed in all bathrooms. We typically had hand dryers, and we will restrict the use of water fountains and encourage students to bring water bottles so that we can maintain healthy hygiene in that regard. Public health signage and reinforcing expectations. One of the most important things we can do as a Westlake family is to have high expectations in regards to what we're communicating to our families for healthy hygiene and preventing sick, whether it's employees, students, or family members from coming into close contact with each other, especially the school building. So we've taken additional steps to provide signage throughout the building to remind parents, visitors, and students to practice good hygiene, washing their hands, using hand sanitizer, maintaining appropriate social distancing protocols, and also reflecting how we will move throughout the hallways to prevent large congregations of students and opportunities that will decrease our ability to maintain at least 6 feet away from each other. So by putting that signage out and reinforcing our expectations, we expect that our students, visitors, and staff will be able to comply with CDC and WHO guidelines. Health services. People who are sick will be expected to stay home. All persons who become sick will be sent home immediately. People that report to the clinic will have their temperature taken As things change, updated response protocols for students and staff will be implemented as they become sick throughout the workday. There'll be guidelines in place to manage students who are ill within the clinic. We will have a room to isolate students who have been identified as having symptomatic, who are identified as symptomatic persons, and we will make sure that we are communicating this information immediately to all families through school messenger and all other forms of communication that we have. In regards to school nutrition, and I will remind you that these meetings are also on the county website. Parents will be paying for meals online, which is typically a standard process for us. Students will eat in the classrooms using a grab and go model, meaning they will pick up their food from the cafeteria area in small groups and then eat within their classroom. We will have some students that will remain in the cafeteria so that we're able to provide social distancing, and pre-ordering of meals will be available for student and parent pickup. All right. Enhanced facility cleaning. So we have a improved routine for cleaning and disinfecting of facilities by our custodians. This is using an effective cleaner that has been certified to sanitize against COVID-19, and this will be used on high-touch services throughout the day. A little bit later, I'll talk about the response protocols should we find that our facility has been compromised by COVID-19, and anyone that seeks to have a rental agreement within the county or outsiders that come into the building will have to align with the district standards and expectations for using the facility. Physical partitions will be placed in select locations, specifically the attendance desk, front desk, media center, and student services. And we'll have an isolation room where partitions will also be available to prevent the spread of COVID-19. In regards to bus safety, bus drivers will be required to wear masks and utilize face shields. There will be assigned student seating to help improve loading and unloading. This may include loading from the front as well as the backs of the buses. Buses will be disinfected after the morning and afternoon routes, and there will be a sanitizing station also affixed to the bus frame. Again, student masks are expected to be used on the bus, and of course we understand that there will be modified social distancing on the buses as students will have to be less than 6 feet apart in order to ride the bus. So of course parents may always opt to transport students through other methods. So I know that those slides have probably answered a lot of questions in regards to the baseline policies and procedures we will use, but there were also questions regarding to what happens if there is a certified COVID case throughout the school year. So as you can see, the county has developed a school closure decision matrix. This matrix outlines the level of community spread, the criteria, and then the action for the requisite community spread and criteria. So as you can see, if there is low to no spread, and one student or one staff member at one site, or one student or one staff member at multiple sites within different clusters test positive for COVID, the school closes for up to 24 hours. So I'm looking at level 1 there. You can see the progression across the board leading up to schools closing for 72 hours, closing the school zone or region or the district for up to 72 hours, closing the school zone, region, district for up to 14 days. And in the case of 5 or more students or staff members in multiple clusters with a substantial level of community spread, the district will be closed until further notice. So these are the current guidelines to which we would implement a school closure. So let's talk a little bit about the questions from the parent survey. So how will the school sanitize and clean the building? Basically, our custodians will sanitize the building along with our contractors each night. The teachers will sanitize. Each teacher will provide it with a cleaning kit throughout the transition. So in between classes, teachers will clean the surfaces, the custodians and our contracted workers will clean the building nightly. And again, they have been provided with chemicals that are consistent across the district, known to be able to sanitize and stop the spread of COVID-19. How will an illness be reported to parents? That will be directly reported to parents through myself, and also through district personnel, which will have their own reporting protocol. 6 students will be housed in our isolation room or the clinic, depending upon if other students are there, until they can be picked up. Can parents visit the school to ensure they are safe for student return? Well, one thing in making the building safe for student return is limiting the amount of people that have access to the building. So we will be providing a series of videos outlining our safety protocol, where students will go, how they will walk up and down the hallways by each of our assistant principals. And these processes and procedures will be clear and available to parents, and we will follow them to the T. So you will know exactly what we're doing once you drop your students off for school. Can Westlake utilize our school governance council to enforce students wearing masks? The flexible process period has passed and was not intended to be used in that particular fashion. So we will not be able to use the school governance council in that way. We talked about social distancing on school buses. Students will not have daily temperature checks, but students who do display symptoms or elevated temperature will have their temperature checked once they report to the isolation room or nursing station. Outside visitors will be allowed into the front office. This process will be monitored closely, and they will be required to wear masks, but they will not be allowed into the building just randomly. We have a much more secure process for people that are entering the building. Will students change classes? Yes, students will change classes. We will have a staggered release that will minimize the amount of students in the hallway at what time. There were some questions about the bell. We're still devising how we will do that, whether we have a silent bell or with a bell, but we will stagger class changes. Right now, you guys have up until the 17th to make your selection. So I do not know the class ratio at this point. That'll be information that we continue to communicate to everyone. We know students are not mandated to wear masks, but we are highly, highly recommending that, and that is our expectation. Social distancing will be followed in the halls, as we will dictate walking patterns within each hallway and encourage students to maintain on those routes. So we're not having pools of students in any particular area. We talked about being able to assess the safety protocols. If COVID begins to spread, we do not have the option to switch to virtual, Fulton virtual at that point. That decision has to be made by the 17th. But of course, if we have a full outbreak, which results in the district being closed, then all students will be in virtual learning to some capacity. Is there an accountability committee to report non-compliance of CDC guidelines? Well, we're not going to be in non-compliance with CDC guidelines, but we are going to have modified expectations around what we can do within the school building, and we'll share that openly with anyone who has questions or asks. All right, so basically, to summarize, and these are the major questions that were asked numerous times, so I just want to reiterate. Building custodians will conduct a deep clean of the building each night, and teachers will spray down each classroom between class changes. 6 students will be housed in the clinic, and parents will be notified immediately. We will implement the school closure matrix if we have an outbreak of COVID. Videos will be used to create social distancing protocols and procedures in the classroom, and the request for flexibility from SGCs has expired. Now let's talk a little bit about academics. So I'm going to provide the information that the district has already shared. This will handle many of the basic questions that individuals had, and then we'll go into some of your more specific questions. So regardless of face-to-face or virtual, we will be increasing our use of digital resources. We will be compacting standards or teaching standards and focusing on the power standards to make up for the learning loss from earlier this March. We will have an increased focus on teacher training for both live and digital learning practices. We'll implement social and emotional supports. Right now, we have a plan to implement that 40 minutes a week, every week this school year. And we'll be building a bank of pre-recorded lessons to utilize for students that may have to quarantine or if we go completely virtual. So assemblies will be limited to smaller groups. We will share information in classroom through teacher smart boards, videos, or televisions. We will space out desks and tables wherever possible in classrooms to improve social distancing. We talked about staggering class changes. Our arrival and dismissal procedures will be updated. How we allow access of students into the building, the areas in which they enter the building, how we process our tardy students will all be adapted in order to prevent congestion at our entryways. Visitors, again, as we mentioned, will also be restricted. To be honest, I really don't intend to have mask down zones in classrooms. The expectation is that everyone wears masks. I didn't see anything from our parent or student survey that suggests that someone does not want to wear masks, but of course, we want to make sure that we're addressing the needs of all students. So as those concerns arise, I will address mask down zones and how we facilitate that. And of course, technology will be distributed to all students. We will have chorus, band, PE, and art. Those classes will take place. All right, so one of the major questions that frequently arose was, how would teachers be trained? So right now, teachers have the ability to register for the Microsoft Leadership Series. This will allow them to become more proficient in our virtual tools, as well as how to facilitate effective learning in a virtual environment. There were questions about AP course offerings. So what you see before you are currently all of the courses that are offered in Fulton Virtual and Georgia Virtual that Westlake students, this is shared from our magnet meeting, or have typically find on their schedule. So I'll allow everyone to take a second to look at those courses. This information about Fulton Virtual can also be found on the school website. There's a screenshot of that on the, county website. There's a screenshot of that information up as well. So I'll allow everyone a chance to view that. Okay, let's answer some of our academic questions. What will be the adjusted class size to ensure proper social distancing? Again, at this point, we know that we want to try to maintain the expectation of 6 feet social distancing as much as possible, but until we have a solidified number of parents and students that will be attending virtual or vice versa, it's difficult to answer that question. After July 17th, when those numbers become finalized, we can then start to accurately plan around the number of students that we have in the building. In addition to the training that's being offered for teachers now during pre-planning, and remember our school start date has been pushed back to the 17th, we'll provide additional professional development for teachers during that time to support them in teaching in this current environment. In regards to why aren't there enough virtual course offerings for AP and IB students? Really, if you think about those classes, they were not designed really to be offered online, and the majority of students don't really take those classes online. So Fulton Virtual has not been typically in the habit of offering AP courses online. And IB, there are some other restrictions in regards to the courses and how they can be facilitated. So right now, those offerings are not changing, and what they have is what will be offered. If additional offerings are added, of course, the district will inform us and we'll pass those along to parents. Will seniors have a traditional graduation or senior activities? Of course, as it's too early to tell, we do know any activities that they have in the fall while we are in school will be modified to reflect social distancing. So there'll be smaller gatherings where the students are able to spread out and still experience some of those events, but in a smaller fashion. After school tutorial will be offered. Again, due to social distancing concerns, students will have to make sure that they're notifying teachers in advance so we can maintain the proper social distancing, and students will not be allowed to remain after school if they are not at tutorial during tutorial days. How will my student receive their work if they have to quarantine for 14 days? We already have policies in place for when students are out on leave, whether it's medical, suspension, or otherwise. So students are able to receive their work. Since we're going to be including digital options as a part of the course curriculum, whether we're face-to-face or not, students will be able to log into their class and receive information. And then, of course, through our normal protocols of email, or in rare cases, if we have to issue paper copies to be picked up, we'll do that. If I choose the virtual option and Fulton County decides to go digital after the 17th of July, will the virtual students be able to switch? Whatever option you choose by July 17th, you will remain in that option for the entirety of first semester. You will not be able to change despite what happens with COVID. Will work-based learning continue as normal? I have no indication that work-based learning will change, but with as with everything else, there will be guidelines in place to reflect social distancing. We answered switching. How will the CBI program practice social distancing and smaller class size, considering these students will not wear masks or understand social distancing? This is the case where we ask, not just with the CBI program, but all of our parents to start acclimating your students to wearing masks now, so that by the time they come to school, it is a normalized part of their day, so that if we all work together and make wearing masks normalized, when students are asked or required or are strongly suggested to wear them at school, then it will not be an issue. Let's see. If we are forced to fully go virtual, meaning that all of the schools shut down, then yes, students will have the same teachers that they had when they were face-to-face. But virtual students with Fulton Virtual will not be coming back into the fold. If your student has the College and Career Academy on their schedule, they will still travel to the College and Career Academy with the same expectations for getting on the bus that they have for arriving to school on the bus. If you adopt the Fulton Virtual option, they will not be going to the College and Career Academy. So in summary, desks will be spaced in keeping with social distancing guidelines. More information will follow once we know how many students we'll actually have in the building. And after July 17th, that will become a little more solidified. We'll establish one-way traffic flow within each hallway and around the building. We know that AP courses are limited. IB courses are non-existent right now on the virtual format. 2021 senior and graduation activities will be altered to reflect social distancing. To what extent that is really depends how far we go into the semester and whether or not the cases continue to rise, and whether or not we are actually in school. After school tutorial will take place. All right, athletics and extracurricular activities. Not a lot of questions here. Can my student play a sport if he or she participates in FCS individual remote? Will school activities be canceled, dances, games, etc.? Will Westlake offer extracurricular activities or clubs after school? Will Westlake have traditional fall sports and games, homecoming, pep rally, senior night? So students who participate in FCS individual remote learning cannot participate in spring or fall sports. So you must be in face-to-face school in the fall to even participate in sports in the spring. So that's a very important point there. I want to make sure that everyone is aware of that. School activities will be modified to meet social distancing guidelines. That includes our clubs and organizations. And basically our plan is that students will have to report to the club advisor if they intend to stay after school, and we will make sure that we provide a space where they can practice effective social distancing. That if a student does not inform their club sponsors, similar to tutorial, they will not be able to stay after school. So planning ahead of time, parents will be very important for after school tutorial and extracurricular activities. Westlake will have traditional fall sports. There were several questions about cross country, so I appreciate the great interest in our cross country team. Yes, we will have all of our traditional fall sports, and right now games as well, although we may have to limit the audience for games. We'll receive further direction from the GHSA, our County Athletic Director, Stephen Kraft, as we move forward. But right now games will take place, although there's an expectation that crowd and audience attendance will be measured. All right, FCS Virtual Learning. So right now, and this is information is a little dated. It was the most current that I have. You can see the students, the grade level, and the number of students that have opted for virtual learning. So this was the most updated information I have. We're about 3 or 4 days behind, so I'm sure that this information has increased, but just want to make sure that in transparency, I'm sharing the most current information that we have. So let's talk about the questions. We know that we cannot change to a virtual option if the spread of the virus increases. We know that extracurricular activities will be offered. Westlake teachers will serve as the virtual instructor. In regards to instructional support provided to virtual students, the support for virtual students will be provided by their virtual instructor. So once you have adopted to take the virtual option, any supports that will be put in place will be issued through that virtual teacher. So those students cannot come to Westlake for face-to-face support. Is virtual a viable option for special education students? Well, when you think about special education students, and there's a variety of needs that they have, their IEPs cover a range of exceptionalities. So virtual may be an excellent option for some special education students. It may not be for other special education students. So that's a very general question to try to answer, but I will say this: whatever a student's IEP is, it will be followed in the virtual option because it is a legally binding document. So as much as possible within the virtual document, because IEPs can contain a lot of different accommodations, they will honor those in the virtual environment. And just to clarify, students cannot come to Westlake to participate in a club and sport if they are a fully virtual student. Who will control and assign the workload for virtual students? That will be the virtual teacher. Um, and how do I speak to my child's virtual teacher if I have a question or concern? There'll be contact information provided, emails for those teachers. Some of them may have specific times where they allow direct phone contact. That varies from teacher to teacher, but any questions or accommodations will be directly issued through that virtual teacher, not Westlake High School, once a student has opted for full virtual enrollment. My student is participating in dual enrollment. Can she or he follow that schedule if I have enrolled in full-time virtual? Yes. Is the decision that was made by the board the final decision for what will happen on August 17th? We do not know. There's a board meeting tomorrow, and our superintendent and the school board may change many of the things that I've shared with you today. One of the reasons why I waited until this point to meet with our community in regards to the plans is that it was not solidified until June 29th, and we didn't want to deal with variables. So once a lot of those variables were reduced, I felt it was time to broach this issue with our community, but keep in mind that before school starts, many more changes can occur. How and when will IEP meetings be conducted for students? We had several IEP meetings after March that were done virtually and in other ways when needed, depending upon the students. Those IEP meetings will be conducted at the proper time that they are scheduled to. So it is not likely that they will be done prior to school starting. But again, all IEPs will be followed in the best possible manner if a parent does opt for the virtual environment. DAS and JROTC will be available for virtual learning at Westlake High School. So what I mean by that, because this question came up in a couple of different ways. If you are face-to-face student in dance and JROTC at Westlake High School, and we go to a completely virtual environment, your dance and JROTC teachers will continue to teach you in the virtual environment. But those classes will not be offered through the full virtual FCS option. So wanted to just make sure I put that question there because it was phrased a couple of different ways. Discipline will be handled in the same way that we handle it here. If there's an infraction in the classroom, the teacher will report it. This is face-to-face, or if we go to full remote at Westlake High School, they'll report it to the administrator. The administrator will address that issue, speak with the parent and student, and assign the appropriate suspension. In the fully virtual environment, the students are essentially in that class by themselves, so there's not really discipline issues in regards to there. And all sessions, if we were to go fully virtual at Westlake, should COVID cause us to close the school, those sessions are recorded as well. So we would be able to have evidence of whatever happened in those sessions. How will I know which classes to enroll my child in for virtual? We're going to talk about that in a few slides, so we'll hold on to that one. But basically, the classes you would be selecting would be based on the meetings that you had with your counselors as they constructed your schedule. Counselors met with all students. If there are some further questions about that, or you want to know your current schedule, I'll be discussing when schedules will be distributed later on in this presentation. Then you can view your schedule and then make the appropriate decision from there. All right, why is the virtual alternative the only options? These programs are for students who have been permanently removed or expelled from public schools. So those options are not for students that have been expelled. We do have a online learning through PEAKS for those students, so I do want to clear that up. But those schools already function with virtual learning to a high degree. So they've already been selected to be utilized in that manner. So that's why we're using those schools for our virtual learning programs, in addition to some other metrics that make them appropriate locations for virtual. If a rising senior only needs 2 courses to graduate and they're attending face-to-face, do they need to stay on campus to take additional electives, or can they leave school? Students have to adhere to what is on their schedule and follow their schedule as it is created. My daughter is in the IEP program for the last 4 years. How will that carry over to high school? Will she get the help and support that she needs? Definitely. If a student has an IEP, whether we are face-to-face, whether they opt for the full virtual model, and whether or not we all attend virtual based on a COVID outbreak, the IEP will be supported. How will recruitment for seniors take place? College fairs, again, all of those events are currently planned to take place, but they will be in an altered format with smaller numbers of students being allowed to attend at different times, and so that we can maintain social distancing. So, in short, to summarize, because these were some of the more frequently asked questions, once the family elects either option, virtual or face-to-face, the student will learn in that environment for the entire semester. Should the district decide to adjust the student learning environment, all FCS parents will be notified. So if we go to complete virtual, all parents will know we're going to complete virtual. Students who are participating in dual enrollment will be able to participate in that program, even if they're enrolled in full-time virtual. Students' IEPs and 504 accommodations are still valid within the virtual environment, and school events will be modified to adjust for social distancing concerns. Another question that parents had was, how do I register for individual remote learning? So I'm going to take you through that process step by step, so that if you have questions, you can see exactly how to go in and register. So step 1, log into Infinite Campus in the parent portal and click on the menu bar. Click More at the bottom of the screen. After clicking More, select Online Registration. Click on Click Here to go to Existing Student Registration. Click Begin Registration. Click English and sign your name. List remote learning as the reason for the application. Complete the application and submit. Once you've completed those processes, you will have registered your student virtually. Now, in order to make sure that we have the best possible environment for all of our students once they return to school, now that we have solidified a lot of our plans, I felt that it was time to start to develop committees to gain input, not to answer questions, because those questions will be filtered through the district and through myself and the other executive members, but to make sure that we receive and hear your ideas, feedback, and suggestions for how we can offer the best possible environment for our students in the fall. So I developed several return to school committees. These committees will consist of teachers and one committee, parents, another committee, and students. So what I want from these committees are suggestions, proposals, and ideas for how we can provide an effective environment for our students. So of course, if I were to open this up, I know that the 500 or so parents that replied to the survey might all want to be on that committee, and that would not be effective for having good meetings that allow me to receive feedback from parents. So what we have done is for each one of those committees, we have selected individuals to be the point person for those committees. You will bring your your ideas, suggestions, and proposals to those point individuals. I will meet with that group of individuals, and then I'll receive the input from all of the stakeholders. So the first group that I've met with is the Teacher Return to School Committee. And some of the things we discussed was student zone, check-in stations. So if students become upset or need a minute to decompress, there'll be areas in each area of the building where they can safely go and be monitored if they just need a second or they have anxiety or stress. Social emotional wellness room for teachers and staff. We have one for students. And just simple notes of positivity to encourage and check in with each other to make sure that we're keeping our spirits uplifted. So those are the things that we talked about in the teacher committee. The parent committee has been recently developed, and I want to share these individuals with you. As I mentioned, there'll be 5 individuals that you will be able to share your suggestions, proposals, and ideas with. These individuals will then gather those ideas, bring them to me, and we will meet. In addition to those 5 individuals, I'll be selecting 5 random parents that will also rotate on and off the committee as well, so that we're meeting with at least 10 parents from different areas of Westlake and providing input. So the first person is our PTSA President, Ms. Insa Womack. Her email address can currently be found on screen. If you have any questions about general safety procedures, well, any general questions or questions about safety, I want you to send them to our PTSA President, Ms. Insa Womack. So again, Ms. Insa Womack, our PTSA President, will be receiving any questions from our parents and community in regards to safety, and any general questions that don't fall into the other 4 areas I'm about to discuss. Our School Governance Council President, Mr. Willie Davis. Mr. Willie Davis will receive questions in regard to community involvement in the school and how the community may be impacted and the school vice versa as a result of our current pandemic. So your ideas, suggestions for interactions between the school and the community and how we may improve, implement, or do those things safely will be directed to Mr. Willie Davis, and his email is listed here as well. And everyone, please be aware, I will be sharing the recording of this meeting on our school website, on our school YouTube page, and through School Messenger as well. So if you are seeking this information, I will send it out so that you can be informed. Our Magnet Booster Club Vice President, Ms. Kay Hawk, she will be receiving suggestions, concerns, ideas around academics. So if you have suggestions, concerns that pertain to our academic program, please send them to Ms. Kay Hawk. And I also want to, at this time, just send some well wishes to our Magnet Booster Club President, who would be standing in this role, who is recovering at this time. So we send our well wishes to Ms. Thompson. All right, our Band Booster Club President, Ms. Amira Hill. Any questions pertaining to how, well, not questions, but ideas, suggestions about how we can make sure to provide support for our fine arts. That's our band, that's our dance programs, our orchestra, chorus, our art programs. So how can we provide ideas for or suggestions to make sure that we do not lose traction in these areas, which are so vital and so important to well-rounded students. And I also want to make this clear before anybody has any concerns. Ms. Thompson, as I mentioned on the previous slide, is not diagnosed with COVID. That is not what she's recovering from. I don't want to start any false rumors or anything there. She's doing okay and she's fine. It's not a COVID diagnosis. So please make sure that you send your fine arts concerns, ideas and suggestions to our Band Booster Club president, Ms. Amira Hill. All right. If you have questions pertaining to athletics, any questions, ideas, suggestions, concerns pertaining to athletics, you're going to send them to our Track Booster Club president, Mr. Joseph Weatherspoon. His email is here as well. And of course, I'll be sharing this, but we're going to send questions, ideas, suggestions about athletics to our Track Booster Club president, Mr. Joseph Weatherspoon. And then remember, I will be meeting with all of these parents and making sure that I receive the input from our larger body of parents. And we'll also be inviting 5 more randomly selected parents that will rotate in and out of this committee as well. So I'll quickly go back over those individuals for general questions and questions about safety, concerns, ideas, suggestions. That's what we're looking for. Our PTSA President, Ms. Ensa Womack, for concerns, support, ideas regarding to the community, our School Governance Council President, Mr. Willie Davis, for ideas, suggestions, concerns, supporting academics, our Magnet Booster Club Vice President, for concerns, ideas, suggestions around our fine arts programs, Ms. Amira Hill, and for concerns, suggestions, ideas pertaining to athletics, our Track Booster Club President, Mr. Joseph Weatherspoon. All right, we're coming towards the end of our meeting. So I just want everyone to be aware of a few reminders. The deadline to register for individual remote learning is July 17th. Please make sure that you are attending the upcoming FCS virtual briefings. They will give you the most up-to-date information about our return to school plan and will go into much, much greater detail than I've been able to go into tonight. Otherwise, we'd be here another 2 hours. They'll provide much, much greater detail for you guys in regards to what we'll be doing. And our upcoming meetings tomorrow is athletics and assessment. When completing virtual registration, you must select the grade level your child was in during the 2019-2020 school year. That's very important. If you select the grade they're currently in, you will not be allowed to register. We mentioned making sure you attend the briefings. Suggestions, proposals, and ideas should be filtered through members of the school recovery team, who I just introduced to you. We'll give them probably about a week to receive your feedback, and then we'll start to have those meetings. Once we get a little bit closer to school, I'll start to select students to form our student committee, and then we'll have feedback from them as well. The FCS board meeting is tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Make sure that you tune in so that if anything changes from what I presented today that comes from the district, of course, we have to align with that. So those changes will impact our school practices, and I'll make sure to communicate them to you. Remember that FCS guidance is subject to change based on any particular information from the CDC or World Health Organization, or increases or decreases in the COVID pandemic. So please keep in mind that things may change. All right, we typically have an in-person sneak peek during the school year where students have an opportunity to see their schedules. And currently, I know a lot of you want to see your schedules, and you aren't able to see them in Infinite Campus. And we wanted to make sure that those were available for you on Friday, but due to some issues within the system, you're not able to see those right now. So on Wednesday, July 15th, schedules will be mailed out. So you should start to see those schedules at your current addresses going out. Actually, we'll start sending them out as early as tomorrow. We expect to have all of them out by the 15th. Instructions for addressing schedule change will be included within the envelope when your schedule is mailed out. Newly enrolled students, unfortunately, will not have a schedule until after August 1st. We've adopted a new system over this past year in Infinite Campus, and in our previous system, we were able to show student schedules prior to that. I was under the impression that we would be able to do the same this year, but unfortunately, we will not be able to show schedules in Infinite Campus to August 1st for new students, and for all of our other students, we'll be mailing those out so you have access to your schedules. So be looking out for that information. Just wanted to remind everyone, if you want to have the most current information about when these policies and procedures were committed, were shared, by our superintendent, the June 29th board meeting is where this was shared. It is still available for view. So if you go to the June 29th board meeting, you can see where many of the things I presented to you were outlined. And last but not least, I just want to remind everybody that we are in this together. I know that this is a trying, and frightening time for many of you, but I promise you that if we work and pull together, we can do this. Remember, we have only just begun. We're just getting started, and we are not going to allow COVID or anything else to get in the way of us providing the best possible academic experience for our students. In closing, I just want to say this. Parents, I am here for you. Students, I am here for you. We are in this together. Throughout the course, the 30-year plus course of the history of our school, we have faced challenges and we have overcome them. This too will pass. And I know that if we work together, we can make sure that our students are safe. We provide a rigorous environment. Our parents and families are safe. Our teachers are safe. And our school is a place where our students can come and be welcome. I have received feedback from so many of you, and I know that several of our students are very apprehensive about coming to school in the fall. And I will do my best to make sure that I reduce those apprehensions in every way possible. But we know that we are dealing with unforeseen, unprecedented circumstances, and we'll be taking unforeseen and unprecedented actions to mitigate the issues that stand before us. So to my new parents, welcome to the Westlake family. I'm here to support you and stand here beside you and your students. To my current students and parents, you know who I am, you know how I feel about you, and you know that I am here to see this through. So thank you to everyone that has been here for over an hour and spent this time with me tonight. Thank you so much to our teachers and staff that helped create this presentation and have been working hard to prepare a return to school. Thank you to our counseling team, led by Ms. Johnson, who has been working hard to make sure that our schedules have been completed. And thank you to our parents who have stood with me. It's been a massive amount of emails. I know it's been a lot. Things have not been as fluid as they normally have been, and I appreciate your patience. I appreciate you standing with me, and I promise you that your trust is not unfounded. So, Westlake High School, we've done it before. We'll do it again. Thank you so much. Have a safe and blessed night. Take care of yourselves and stay healthy.